Today on CityCast Nashville, it's time for our Friday News Roundup. I'm joined today by producer Daniel Sumstein and Nashville Scene Editor-in-Chief D. Patrick Rogers. They just published their mammoth Best of Nashville issue, which is on stands now. We'll talk about this year's winners and pick our faves. Plus, we're breaking down the results in Tuesday's Congressional District 7 special primary election as we turn our attention to the general election in December. It's Friday, October 10th. I'm your executive producer, Whitney Pastorek, and this is officially the best podcast in Nashville. Before we start, this week's Metro Council meeting took place last night because of the primary election on Tuesday. One thing to note is that according to the Nashville Banner, the public hearing on 2 new zoning codes to help address our housing crisis is being pushed back to November 4th, and we'll have full coverage of everything else that happens at the meeting in Monday's newsletter. Meanwhile, the big news this week, of course, was the primary in the special election to fill former U.S. Representative Mark Green's seat in the Tennessee 7th Congressional District, which wraps around and into Nashville and Franklin like a creepy hug. Let's start on the Republican side, where former Tennessee General Services Commissioner Matt Van Epps won easily with over 50% of the vote. He'd been endorsed by Green, Governor Lee, and President Trump in this field with very well-known state house reps like Jody Barrett, Lee Reeves, and Gino Bulso. Patrick, how did this relative unknown stand out?
Well, I think it probably didn't hurt that he got the Trump endorsement, right? The donors follow that. And, he's a veteran. He served with Mark Green, and that was very central to his messaging.
Is that what made him the chosen one? Was their shared army service?
I don't know a whole lot about their personal relationship, but I know he endorsed Van Epps right out of the gate. The majority of the 7th is really people outside of Davidson County, probably pretty happy with Mark Green's representation. And, primary voters are going to be probably a little bit more dialed in than general voters. So if they liked Mark Green and Mark Green says, this is my guy, then they're probably going to go with the guy, right?
Daniel, what's your take on Van Epps?
Yeah, to be honest, I didn't know much about him before the race, but I did some research this morning. And while I disagree with him on a lot of the issues, I did find some positives on his website. For example, under protecting farmers and rural communities, he mentions plans to expand rural health care so that every Tennessean, regardless of zip code, has access to quality care. He also emphasizes a commitment to supporting veterans. So, on the surface, these seem like policies that both Democrats and Republicans could find common ground on.
We campaign in poetry and we govern in prose. So we'll be curious to see what he can achieve with a federal government that's currently shut down surrounding healthcare issues and Medicaid issues and that kind of stuff. But he really doesn't have any name recognition at all outside of just, hi, it's me and I'm running for this office now. So on the Democratic side, we were treated to a delightfully tight race for geeks like me who love to watch elections returns. And it came down to the wire with all 4 candidates gaining over 20% of the vote. In the end, state representative and rural organizer Afton Bain pulled out the win by around 1,000 votes over Darden Copeland and state reps Bo Mitchell and Vincent Dixie. Patrick, were you at all surprised?
I wouldn't say I was surprised. We, how it goes in journalism. You kind of have to do your pre-writes, and we'll have this version just in case of this and this version just in case. And we were like, let's definitely have Afton. Let's definitely have Darden. There was a bit there when the first returns were coming in. We were like, do we need to write a backup for Bo? Do we need to write a backup for Vin? And, Vincent Dixie pulled out the most votes in Davidson County. It was pretty close, which I think made us all feel a little bit better about, because sometimes you go into a race and you're completely wrong and you're just like, what am I doing? Do I even know anything? But this is, that one was close enough where it was like, all right, pretty equal name recognition. Of course, Darden Copeland wasn't as well known to probably the average voter. Of course, in political circles, he's really well known. So, it was an interesting race to watch. And yeah, everybody got between 6,500 and 8,000 votes, right?
Honestly, I wasn't surprised at all, to answer my own question. We've seen Afton do this before in her state house race, where in her primary, she was facing off against former Metro Council member Anthony Davis, the man who had actually been appointed to the seat when his predecessor, Bill Beck, passed away. Anthony great friend, East Nashville Beer Works owner. We love him, very much representing sort of traditional Nashville politics. And Afton, this organizer, rabble-rouser, comes in from left field and actually ended up taking that race. So I wasn't surprised that she was able to beat some more established candidates this time. But Daniel, do you think her experience rallying for rural hospitals in District 7 specifically could make this an interesting face-off with Van Epps, who cites that as one of his biggest priorities?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm looking forward to hearing the deeper discussions on that, because it seems like it's both at the top of their priorities and what they're both campaigning on. But I got to imagine they have different visions on how to go about that. So it'll be interesting to see how they square off on that issue.
Well, the big story in the race ultimately kind of ended up being turnout and ballot breakdown by party. Although the 7th district was gerrymandered to be a very Republican district, only about 37,000 Republicans voted in the primary versus 31,000 Dems. That's not a very big split. And I don't think turnout hit double digits in any of the counties in the district. So what happens if come December 2nd, it does? What happens if people show up?
Your guess is as good as ours, right? I mean, I have to say, and I hate, being in journalism, it's just like sort of you're naturally cynical about these things. Like we ran a cover story just a few weeks ago, and the headline, which like came to me like in a dream in July, was "Gerrymandering Works," because every election since 2022, when the 5th was cracked into 3 new districts, it's just been Republicans creaming Democrats. Odessa Kelly, Heidi Campbell. It doesn't matter which of the 3 districts it is. It's 25 points differential, right? So Afton has a lot of energy. A lot of people like her. She motivates probably, I would imagine there's going to be a lot of first-time voters in the 7th. But the way, as you noted, this district is shaped sort of like encompassing Davidson County and scooping out a little, and it's going from the north border to the south, just looks absolutely absurd. I mean, they had an intention when they redrew that district, and so far we've seen it work for Republicans every single time.
Well, speaking of elections, let's talk about the reverse, because that's in the news here in Nashville this week. A group of residents in the Nations are hoping to spark a recall of their council member, Rollin Horton, filing a notice of intent to obtain signatures for a recall petition on October 3rd. This effort is being led by Lauren Magley, a local real estate agent who really led the opposition against Horton's upzoning there in the Nations to create more housing density last month. And according to your very own Nashville Scene, Patrick, the complainants believe that Horton's 18 months of public engagement around the process weren't enough, saying, quote, "This deliberate refusal to engage with constituents on a matter of profound local impact constitutes a failure to honor the responsibilities of his office and has irrevocably broken the public's trust, leading to a loss of confidence in his leadership." Patrick, let's start with the basics. How does the recall process work in Nashville?
The petition to recall a council member has to gather at least 15% of registered voters in the district, in District 20, and then it has to be into the clerk within a month, and I think that's November 3rd. So if they get, and I don't have the breakdown in front of me, I don't know exactly what 15% of the district is. Let's say it's 20,000 people, then they need to get 3,000 of them to sign this petition, right? Can they get that many people who are upset about the rezoning? I don't know.
And then they have to have a recall election,
right,
in which Rollin runs.
He could run again, right,
a different candidate, and that candidate has to get 50 plus 1% of the vote. This doesn't happen a lot in Nashville. The only time in recent memory I can remember that it happened was when my own District 5 recalled former council member Pam Murray. And even then, that happened by literally like a squeak. And she was living in Detroit at the time. So it was like, it took everything people had to recall a council member who didn't even go here.
Right. It doesn't seem particularly likely to me. But I mean, let's say they do get the votes necessary and then they hold another election and then Rollin Horton just gets the votes again, because even if they have, whatever it is, 2,500, 3,000 signatures, whoever runs against him, he still has a pretty good shot at beating. So it would be a nice little waste of resources and time and all that stuff if that happens. I did really enjoy Horton's statement to us and our sister publication, The Post. I think he handled it pretty well. He was, Nashville's in a housing crisis. I ran for council to address this issue. I was elected with 74% of the vote to enact policies to make Nashville more affordable.
Right. Oh, you're leaving out the spiciest part, though, which is when he says the woman who filed the petition is immune to our housing issue because she, and good for her, lives in a home owned by her parents. The nation's neighborhood plan is a good step in furtherance of the goal, especially for those of us who don't enjoy the luxuries in life like Ms. Magley.
Yikes.
Yikes. Well, we love a spicy quote, though. And wait, there's more. Y'all remember we told you about the ethics complaint that was filed against Fair Board Chair Jasper Hendricks a while ago, alleging that he's been conspiring with and accepting free stuff from Bristol Motorsports around the proposal to renovate the Nashville Fairgrounds racetrack to bring NASCAR races to the heart of our city. And according to the Nashville Banner, Metro Legal Director Wally Dietz has issued a report saying that some of the allegations in that complaint could constitute violations of the standards of conduct, and his department is recommending an ethics board hearing. And we just want to say that last time we talked about this, we did give Chair Hendricks a little bit of a hard time for having a boring statement. And oh gosh, did he ever deliver this time around? In a phone call with the Banner, he said, quote, "There's nothing in the evidence that says anything that they're alleging. As far as conspiring to come up with a statement, I don't need help in writing statements. I am a 30-plus year government professional that writes statements for other people."
He's also calling the process a shakedown and says none of this would be happening if opponents of the NASCAR track weren't paying people to speak out against it, which is interesting.
Yes, those progressive organizing liberal grassroots groups and all their money, typically.
I'm so sorry to say it. When fair board drama pops up, it's hard for the eyes not to glaze over. There's always a little bit of something there, but that one I've been clocking it, but it's not quite as exciting to me as the Rollin Horton one, I would say.
For sure. Well, if you need a statement written, though, you know where to go.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, folks, let's get to the real reason why Patrick is here. The Nashville Scene's annual Best of Nashville issue is on stands now, and we won Best Podcast.
Let's go.
They also named our show and our Hey Nashville newsletter as the best way to keep up with local politics and ran a super cute photo of me and Marie, who really did pick the worst time to go on vacation. Patrick, would you take a minute and tell our listeners what makes us so awesome?
Oh my gosh. Oh, you need me to do that? Didn't we do such a wonderful job of that in the blurb?
You actually did. The blurb is amazing. Listen, I just personally want to thank everybody who voted for us. I want to thank all of you out there who have been on this show. I believe we are almost at 300 total guests from all across the city of Nashville in the course of our, year and a half existence. Y'all, we couldn't do it without you. We couldn't do it without your wisdom and your love of the city and the fact that you want to participate in making it better. So keep it up.
Thank you, Mom, and my in-laws and my wife for voting for us.
Great. And your agent and your manager.
And my agent, yeah.
Well, let's dig into some of the other big winners. Daniel, who were your faves?
I loved seeing Resting Burrito Face, formerly known as J-Ma's, win Best Breakfast Burrito.
I didn't even know they changed their name.
2 days ago.
Wow.
I know. I just saw that when I was looking over the winners, and I was like, I love the name, first of all. But they are one of my favorite burritos in town. They've been a go-to for my hangover Sunday mornings. I'm really happy to see them get their flowers. I was also stoked to see Sarah Bug win Best Self-Release Album for her album Into the Blue. I discovered her music through the No Country for New Nashville playlist, and her voice just draws you in like a warm Southern hug.
Like the kind of hug that the 7th District gives to Nashville.
Warmer, hopefully.
Yeah. Just phenomenal country songwriting. It also looks like she produced the album herself, which is awesome. As an independent artist myself, I know the labor of love that goes into self-releasing your own music. So huge congratulations, Sarah. And then lastly, I want to shout out Margot winning Best Service Staff, because I think that is so well deserved. Every time we've eaten there, we just have such an incredible experience. You get the sense that the staff there is like a family, and they put so much thought into the dishes that they serve. Just good people who are doing it for the right reasons. It's like our go-to date night restaurant. So congrats to Margot.
Those are some great picks. I love it. Mine are, I love seeing Sap Sap win Best Pop-Up. Patrick, I know you love them too, but I personally cannot believe, speaking of things that just happened, that they betrayed us by ending their regular pop-up at Rice Vice right before this issue came out and depriving me of my Wednesday night dinner options.
Yeah, we're kind of showing where we live by talking about Rice Vice and East Nashville beer. I'm kind of like giving it away a little much, but the Sap Sap, I wrote that one because just been loving their pop-ups for the past several months. And my fiance for my birthday kind of surprised me we just went out and had a lake day. My birthday's right in the middle of the summer, and she got catering from them. And our friends who didn't have the pleasure of knowing Sap Sap stuff yet were just like, what is this? This is incredible. Where do we go to get more? Love to include them this year.
And then I want to also shout out some friends of the pod who won in the media category alongside us. Rose Gilbert at WPLN won Best Audio Storytelling for her podcast, The Country in Our Hearts. We've had her on the show. Y'all go back and listen to that episode and definitely listen to the whole podcast that she created. Ellen Angelico, our guide to Madison. She won Best Music Podcast for Girl in a Hurry, the Shelley Bush story. You will not regret listening to that one. And Mike Lacey, who's joined us a couple times here on the show to talk about the issues specifically with Metro's Office of Homeless Services. He won Best Media Watchdog. So way to go, Mike. And finally, I just want to congratulate my loved ones at 210 Jack for having the third best ramen in town.
That's right.
Patrick, what are some of the categories you get most excited about every year?
So we sort of break up, we have sort of 9 categories just to make it sort of manageable for folks to, for us to edit and everything. And most years I edit food and drink myself, which is the biggest one. I think we had 81 or 82 writer's choices this year. So I'm always excited about that because over time, when I started at the scene 145 years ago, I was mostly a music and film guy. I still am. That's still what I love to cover. But over time, I've gotten more and more into covering food and cultural things. So I really get excited to see new restaurants, new bars. Best chef, of course, we kind of had to give it to Jake Howell, who won the Beard Award this year.
Yeah, that's kind of a no-brainer.
I mean, that's one of sometimes we really struggle with that because there are a lot of obviously very talented chefs in town. But sometimes when the Beard Awards lay it out for you, we're like, well, he was going to be at the top of the list anyway. And now let's give him some more flowers. So it may not be the biggest award he's won this year, the best of. Our music editor, Stephen Tragesser, does such a wonderful job of covering a lot of bases when it comes to local hip hop, country music, pop, rock. So it's always kind of fun because I try to stay up on local music, but I'm not as plugged in as I used to be when I was going to 3 or 4 or 5 shows a week. So I love seeing, okay, this is what I need to catch up on. Here's what our writers really like in each of these categories. I'm just sponging all this stuff as I'm editing it, and about half of it sticks. So
Totally. Yeah, I can imagine. Were there any surprise winners from this year?
I mean, there's always the readers poll is always sort of throws us some curveballs, and there's always sort of been, the dichotomy of the sometimes we line up. You're gonna see certain folks like in the food space, you're gonna see like best new restaurant and some of those things line up, but sometimes it is really quite different. Like Ed Lee's, I believe, won best wings in the readers poll this year. With all due respect to Ed Lee's, I don't think that they're the ones I would have nominated. I personally voted for Got Wings.
You have to vote for Gahat Wings.
Yeah, Gahat Wings, yeah. But, there's always that tension. But back in the early days, before my time at the scene, sometimes I'll flip through the old archives just kind of for fun or to see how far we've come or whatever. And you look at the readers poll and it was Shoney's for best restaurant and, McDonald's for best French fries and stuff. So the readers have, I think, gotten a little bit more sophisticated in the new Nashville days, but still there's always going to be those things where it's, okay, didn't see that curveball coming. Or I've had people tell me for years, you guys should get rid of the best conservative category in the readers poll. But it's funny because like 4 of the past 5 years, none has won. And that's just kind of funny. And we don't put our finger on the scale for any readers poll winners. Whoever wins. We weed out we sometimes get people trying to ballot stuff and stuff like that. Outside of that, we just let it ride. But it's always funny to see none win best conservative.
Well, I can't really let this moment go by without once again shouting out Butch Spiridon for reminding all of us that before he came along, Nashville's best seafood restaurant was Red Lobster, ladies and gentlemen. So way to go, Butch. You really did it.
Those cheesy biscuits.
Cheddar Bay.
Cheddar biscuits.
I still visit on occasion to Cheddar Bay.
Whitney, I know you were at the Best of party Wednesday night, and I saw that our boy Ray DiPietro posted a photo of you and Margaret. So cool.
Yes, I completely accosted Ray DiPietro. Ray, I'm so sorry. I literally grabbed Margaret by the arm and went running across the room and went, "We won Best Podcast!" And he's like, "I'm sorry, who are you?" But we had a lovely chat, and he took a really cute photo of us, and his photos from the rest of the night are stunning. Patrick, congrats on a great event. I can't imagine how tired you probably are.
I got to shout our events department out on that one. Obviously, we in editorial have some buy-in there, and we go to the meetings and chat it out. But our events team really works extremely hard to get that set up. And we did it at the Musicians Hall of Fame, which is beneath Municipal Auditorium, where we've done Iron Fork before, our food competition. So we knew them, and we knew the space was good for it. I really like that they have a big circular flow, and everybody can kind of check out the vendors and come back around. I was joking with Steve Harouche at the Nashville Banner, formerly of the Nashville Scene, because they keep the actual museum open so people can go in and check it out during the party. And we were like, I'm not sure I'd trust people with barbecue sauce on their fingers, 3 gin and tonics in, to be around Ringo's Ludwig snare drum. You know what I mean? But hey,
Just toting a plate of Edley's wings.
just they spill forward as they're looking at the, Robert Plant exhibit or whatever.
Well, it's a gorgeous issue. You should be so proud.
Thank you. If you catch anything, don't tell me, at least not until next week.
Okay.
Any
Folks,
errors?
It's on newsstands now. So y'all pick it up this weekend. Take some time, flip through it, and go start visiting these bests. And now it's time for Dun-Dun-Dun-Dun.
Good news.
Patrick, I was really hoping to get your buy-in on that.
Oh, good news. Sorry.
We got to teach them, Whitney.
He should know. We're the best podcast in Nashville.
That's right. Yeah, I really blew my cue there.
First of all, let's welcome our new CityCast Nashville neighbors, Sarah A. and Andy P. Y'all, thank you so much for becoming members and supporting our show. And hey, if you want to become a member of CityCast Nashville, I'm not just saying that because we recently won a major award, you can join at membership.citycast.fm. You get exclusive content, you get ad-free listening, and you get to come meet us. We're going to have one more event before the end of the year, so y'all sign up now so you don't miss that one. It's going to be a doozy. You'll notice we had no tunnel time, but I really highly recommend folks go listen to today's episode of CityCast Las Vegas, because they and ProPublica are reporting some breaking news on the environmental impacts of the Boring Company's Tesla tunnels in their city. So y'all go check that out. It's stuff that we probably really need to know. Meanwhile, Nashville Pride has raised about $145,000 in its effort to save Nashville's annual Pride Festival after a bunch of sponsors dropped out this year. You know, what's terrific is the group has said that we've now raised enough to start planning for next year's festival. They are still hoping to hit that $250,000. And this is the final weekend of their fundraising push. So you can still donate at savenashvillepride.org. Daniel, what's your good news?
I want to give a shout out to the Titans getting their first win of the season. I was super critical of them last week on the pod, but yeah, it's always good to see the Titans get their first win. It was kind of more like the Cardinals lost, I will say.
I don't know.
But they should be feeling good. I'm glad they got a first W under their belt. And in other sports news, the Preds are back, which is awesome. They kicked off their season last night against the Blue Jackets, and they play the Utah Mammoth at Bridgestone on Sunday.
So the Utah Mammoth, I slept through all of last year's hockey season. The Utah Mammoth is what used to be the Arizona Coyotes. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. And I don't understand the singular mascot. Why are they not the Mammoths? Is it just one mammoth who stands there in like a goalie mask?
I think so.
And hits the little men out of the way?
That is true. All the other sports teams are plural.
Not the Utah Jazz.
Oh, yeah, true.
So maybe it's a Utah thing.
It's a Utah problem.
They have sick jerseys, I will say.
Is it the mammoth? Is it a mammoth?
I just love the color scheme.
Wait, it looks exactly like the Preds logo, except for it being an elephant.
Yeah.
It's pretty similar.
Okay, well, I look forward to this prehistoric creature off on Sunday. Patrick, what's your good news?
I'm going to say, even though it's not until next weekend, the Southern Festival of Books return, despite the funding gap and all that stuff, it's still going to happen. It's still a big, iconic event here in Nashville, and it's great that it's still going on.
We did it, everybody. Great job. Make sure you go read Margaret Rankel's column in the New York Times about how we all saved it, too, because that was a beautiful piece of writing. And then, Daniel, I'm just looking here at the list, and I see that you've got one event that you think everyone can't miss this weekend. Please tell us all about it.
Yeah, I stumbled across this. So they are hosting Buckfest at Marathon Music Works. For anyone who has ever played Buck Hunter, like the famous arcade game, this is like what seems to be the big Buck Hunter World Championship. They're having over like $125,000 in prizes. Yeah, this just sounds ridiculous in the best way. I'm terrible at buck hunting, but if you're a buck hunter advocate, check out this event.
Here's what I need. I need Oasis to be playing on the jukebox. I need to be drinking a White Russian. And I need to be 23 years old. And then I will win the hell out of that tournament.
I used to be a big buck hunter guy. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I could be a dark horse.
Kablam. Well, and then last but not least ever, everybody, it's obviously Friday, which means it's time for the second to last Fridays by the River. Come join us in Shelby Park, 3 to 8 by the boat ramp down by the river. This week's band is the Tennessee Warblers. They're awesome. And our food trucks are Bangkok Belly and their delicious drown yourself in it pad thai, Lady Dogs, Nicolettos, Hot Wheels, and our friends at King of Pops. So come on out and see us. Bring the dogs, bring the kids, and say hi. Patrick, will you be there?
I will not. I am going to be in a post-Bond coma all weekend. That's
Smart.
my plan. That's my plan.
Absolutely well-deserved.
My fiance also works on Nashville 911, and she's had some pretty gnarly hours lately. So I think we might just maybe go to the Belcourt, but maybe also just bed rot all weekend.
That premiered this week. We didn't even bring that up. I can't imagine why. We'll have full coverage of Nashville 911 next week in our Friday news roundup. Maybe Amanda can come on and tell us all about it.
I don't know what kind of NDAs she's signed, but she probably doesn't care and would come talk about it, actually.
Outstanding. All right, everybody have a great weekend. Patrick, thank you so much for being here, and congrats again.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
See ya.
That's all for today here on CityCast Nashville. And don't forget, you can support this show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Nashville neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. Our award-winning host is the still vacationing Marie Cecile Anderson. Come home, Marie. Your picture's in the paper. I'm your executive producer, Whitney Pasterek. Our award-winning producer is Daniel Sumstein. Our award-winning Hey Nashville newsletter editor is Margaret Kingsbury. Our award-winning theme music is by the award-winning Prof Jenkins. Hey, Prof, we won! Thanks also to this week's award-winning rovers, Natalia Aldana and Selena Say Reynolds, for their help editing the newsletter. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell your friends? Rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our Hey Nashville newsletter. Monday is Indigenous Peoples Day. Enjoy the long weekend if you get one. We'll be back Tuesday morning with more news from around the city. Y'all take care of each other.